He handled his part quite well otherwise. The young Englishman who finally married Susie seems to have been an automation rather than a character. I might suggest that more care be taken not to lose character. If this criticism seems too harsh, don't lose any sleep over it, for I really did enjoy your show and feel that you are to be congratulated. So, it's just fun things to do. One suggested that perhaps between acts, now probably when they were having their coffee and cigarette, that they would have a string quartet or 2 or 3 instruments in the piano. So I thought that was worthy of your knowing that people did have opinions in 1938. So now, onward, with this newfound success, a second production was put on the boards. Yes, My Darling Daughter. And this was directed by Mrs. Harry Kane and played in October 1938. Now, you remember, Harry Kane was the lead in the first production, and Mrs. Kane directed the second production. And I just am thrilled to death. I have one of the nicest neighbors you could ever want to have, and her name is Candy Tingstad. However, it was Candy Kane. She is the only daughter of Harry and Mrs. Kane. She was not around in 1938, but I said, Candy, could you tell us just a little bit about, you know, your folks in the theatrical, were they always theatrical, or what was it like living with, don't ask my kids what it's like living with me.
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask, but my aunt said she would go to dinner at their house and never know who she was eating with because they were playing various characters in the plays. That's how they met, and they only knew each other about 10 days before they got married. Lasted 23 years. So that's a bad decision. Their mom directed many plays here and in Washington, D.C., was very involved in the theater. My father, of course, had an incredible speaking voice. Could sort of mesmerize people as a politician, statesman. So it was just part of our life. I can remember watching a lot of rehearsals as a child. But this is 5 years before I was born, so the early years I don't have any memory of, but I know the friendships that they made through the theater, particularly here in Lakewood Little Theater, with Lakewood Little Theater, were important in their whole lives.
I know you can't probably see this from there, but this is a picture in an article of Mrs. Kane. And Candy, if you'd like to take that, you know, have someone do it and put it on the computer, however they do that, you certainly would be welcome to. And there's lots of articles in here about that. So you might enjoy going through this.
Is that yours, Tom?
It's mine until it gets put into better condition, because I said I would see to it that it got preserved.
I'll try.
It'll be in the neighborhood for a while.
Right. The plays that I can remember were in the downstairs at the
Yeah, that came a little later.
right, at the where the theater is, and in the mortuary.
Yeah. It wasn't a mortuary then, though. Okay, shall we go forward?
Does everybody know that Harry Kane was mayor of the Colony?
Yes, I've mentioned that a couple of times. You all knew that. Do you remember what years?
He was mayor until he went to the Senate in 1946, but the war came in there, so it was like 38 to 41, 2 around in there. Well, actually, I was born in 43, and he was mayor on leave, so he was still actually the mayor in 1943. And then he went away for 3 years and came back and went to the Senate.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Candy. Anyway, she just got back from Mexico and told me she was going to be way too tired to come, but I said she'd been on vacation, so she should be rested. So she did come to join us tonight. Well, we had 3 more plays in August of '39. There is one thing that shows up in one of our history little write-ups, which I hate to report is wrong. In 1961-62, the Lakewood Players did Our Town, but not in 1939, and I'll tell you why it wasn't us. Because of the success that the Lakewood Players were having. she had helped develop this. So she made arrangements for the Seattle Repertory to bring their production of Our Town to the Lakewood Theater for a one-night show in 1939. Now, this was quite a feather in the caps of both the Lakewood Players and the Seattle Rep, because the publicity was two-ended then. The Seattle got publicity about it, and Tacoma and Lakewood did. I don't know if they spent the night or if they went back and forth, but a trip from here to Seattle was quite a trip back then. We're going to move on now. I can't really find much about 1940 and the plays that were given. Now, maybe it was too far for the Tacomans to come. I don't know. I have two little tidbits that I didn't know before, so I know you didn't know. And that is that the second production cleared $21.87. And at one of the early rehearsals, don't know which one, the movie screen at the Lakewood Theater got torn. And so they had a sudden expense of $250. Now, if you wanted to know any of the secrets in Lakewood, of course, you read Charlie Mann's Lakewood Law, and that's where I came up with those little tidbits. I want to add now that if there's anyone that would like to ask a question as we go along or add something, I can see you. Just wave your hand and we'll stop, just like I invited Candy. So please, if you have anything to add or ask, we'll try and answer it amongst us. Okay, in 1941, the Players moved to the Decoven Inn. Again, I have not been able to find out if it was economic, if it was because, I don't know why. If anybody has that, it's just sort of a blank year. And then, of course, the war came along, and so the theater was dark until 1945.
Donna, the Decoven Inn is at the shore. They still at the end of Alpharetta. Anybody?
Right.
Some apartments.
It's now an apartment building, has been for several years. Okay. After the war, again, they met. 35 people this time, and they met at the little church on the prairie. And they made arrangements to have theater in the round at the recreation room. Remember, it's the recreation room until someone took over the dining room many years later and changed the name to the York Room. It was established that they would do theater in the round, and they would do 5 plays per season. They had a board of directors and standing committees. And this is where I'm going to drop names. Not because they were on any one of those committees, but because they continued to be active and backers for the Players, and some of them still are. There was Pass and Glenn Shook, Skip Rash, Janet Worthen, Gladys Tessier. Any of you recognize the names? Tom and Rose Murphy, the Furmeisters, Pearl Raybach. Pearl's moving to Nevada. She's 91 years old. Pearl Richards. I'm sorry, Pearl Raybach. Oh, Pearl. Everybody knew Pearl Raybach, didn't they? The flowered hats and the matching shoes. Oh, so she wore purple shoes. She wore a purple hat to church. Carlin and Fran Aden. Fran and Ed Burkhalter. The Corey Wagners. Sam Wilsons. The Lester Melbys. Margaret Mace. We have 2 of the Maces here tonight. Denny McGugan, Helen Hauge, so many that were active. There's more that I'm going to mention pretty soon. 1946, they developed a permanent building committee. And that was just a committee, just a permanent building committee. They had dreams. 1947, they started a small junior program. And I think the reason they did was because the old story, you get the kids involved, parents and all their relatives have to come to the productions. And that means you make money that summer that you weren't planning on making. So they gleaned a lot of us from high school that were thespians and were active in the productions there, I being one of them. And you want to remember, there were no TVs in those days. We have to go back. We have to go, close your eyes and go back. And so we had a little workshop for the young people. And at the Lakewood Center Theater, how many of you have ever been inside the Lakewood Theater? Okay, good. Boy, this is an old crowd. Behind the balcony, or at the back of the balcony, there were two glass rooms. One was for crying babies and the other was for smoking. Behind that was a lounge, and the men's restrooms are on one end and the ladies' restrooms were on the other end. Well, I had 9 and 10-year-olds for a summer workshop. I don't remember if we met 4 Saturdays or 5 Saturdays or whatever, met up there in that lounge. Now, what are you going to do with 9 and 10-year-olds? Can you imagine your 9 and 10-year-olds doing this today? Well, they didn't have television, and it was to get them to use their imagination. One of the things that I did with these children was give them a sentence. Poor old Jonathan Bing got lost to visit the king. Oh, what? You know, kids would say today. But the idea was is it was rhyming, and then they were going to make up a story as to what happened to Jonathan Bing on his way to visit the king, and why did he get lost? So they each came up with a different little story, and then we acted it out. They had a wonderful time. It was a wonderful time to be a young person back in those days. Well, my first major in college was speech and drama. That's what I taught. And they asked if I would, after my first year in college, go back and direct the first play that was strictly of the young people. And it was What a Life. And it was a takeoff on Henry Aldrich. Do any of you remember Henry Aldrich? It's a radio program. You remember? The shadow had the squeaking door, and Henry Aldrich always started out with his mother saying, Henry! Henry Aldrich! Well, that's what we did. And we have some more name dropping to do now, because we have one person sitting on the stage that actually was a lead in that, and his name was Jazzbo. It says Jazzbo Reynolds is making his second appearance with the Lakewood Players.
What was I in?
He played George Bigelow in What a Life. And
Don't even remember.
Jazzbo is a student at the Yale School of Fine Arts.
I actually graduated.
Now, Rocky Koppel was the lead in What a Life. He was a junior at Clover Park High School, and his voice was just changing, so it was just perfect. Joan Clark was in it. Jimmy Hudson was in it. Dean Gillette. Now, Deanie Gillette was very active. His mother was very active in the theater here in Lakewood. And Dean was, he was the oldest one within that cast and group, because he had 5 years of college, and so, you know, they had to put him as production manager to keep us all going. But along with that, there's someone else here that worked in the youth productions, and that's Margie Whitmore Slaw. And I thought it was just grand that I could get a hold of her, and she would tell you what it was like to be in one of those groups during that time. Margie, you want to stand?